What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to episode 79 of the Be Greyt podcast. On today's episode, we have week 4 game picks, week 4 preview. Got 10 games. That's a pretty good weekend of football we got coming up here, but I will say this. Next weekend, week 5, is juicy. All right? It's juicy. Okay? But we're on week 4. So let's just hop right on into it. Might be a little bit shorter of an episode, depending on how quick I get through these. First up, Iowa versus Rutgers on Friday night. I was having a hard time finding like really good games because I want to find 10 each week. And so sometimes you get the dregs of the Big Ten and you have to pick between Iowa and Rutgers on a Friday night. I'm going to go Iowa in these spots. I trust Iowa to win. I don't trust Iowa to beat, a Penn State and Ohio State and Oregon, a Michigan or whatever, but I can trust them to beat a Rutgers. So give me the Iowa Hawkeyes. SMU TCU. An interesting one. It would be more interesting if SMU hadn't dropped the ball and lost to Baylor. I think TCU has the better quarterback in Josh Hoover. I think they have the better head coach, and they're at home. That is all going to lead to success, and it's all going to lead to a TCU win over the SMU. Are they Mustangs? Yeah, Mustangs. For some reason, I always want to say ponies, and I don't know why. But here, this next game, we got one of the big ones. Texas Tech, Utah, Texas Tech at Utah, to be more specific. This one is interesting. It's I'd probably say the best game of the weekend, most interesting game of the weekend, the one I'm looking the most forward to. It's probably between this one and Auburn, Oklahoma, which we'll get to later. Look, I picked Texas Tech to be in the Big 12 championship game. Unfortunately, I had them going against Kansas State, which in hindsight was a mistake. Okay, I'll admit it. I don't know why between the ACC and the Big 12, every time I make my conference championship predictions, one of the teams I pick, and it usually happens for the ACC, it happened with Florida State last year, this year it's with the Big 12, one of the teams has to just absolutely be legitimately awful. I just can't catch a break with the ACC or the Big 12. But that's okay. That's okay. Texas Tech can still get there. I think Texas Tech still will get there. However, I'm going to pick Utah to win this game. Why? What are the 3 things I love to look for? Who has home field advantage? Who has the better head coach? Who has the better quarterback? It's a valid question. Sorry, I had to take a sip of Gatorade right there. It's a valid question to ask. Sorry, my brain went completely numb. Is that the right word to use? Numb? I don't know. But let's go through it. So Utah obviously has home field advantage, right? Utah, Kyle Whittingham, it has the better head coach. Who has the better quarterback? You got Texas Tech, who has Baron Morton. And then you have Utah, who has Devin Dampier. Now, I've heard a lot about Devin Dampier. I've heard he's really good. He's a dual threat guy, which is all things that I like to hear. I think Utah's been impressive. I think Utah is really looking for a revenge year this year. They're looking to bounce back from the year that they had last year. I just said year a bunch, by the way, right there. So I think I got to go Utah here, even though I had Texas Tech making it to the Big 12 championship. They can still get there with a loss to Utah. It's looking like we're on a collision path for this to be a rematch in the Big 12 championship, which I wouldn't mind. But give me Utah to beat Texas Tech. I just trust Utah more um, in a spot like this. This next one was one of the harder ones to pick. Michigan at Nebraska. This one was difficult. I am not a Bryce Underwood believer this year. However, I don't think Dylan Raiola is that good either. So really, it comes down to everything around it. Now, Nebraska's at home. I think Matt Rule is a better head coach than Sharon Moore. But I think Michigan's team is better. I think Michigan has a good defense, which will cause Dylan Raiola to have issues. And I think Bryce Underwood and, oh my gosh, the name of their running back, Haynes, Justice Haynes, right? And I think Underwood and especially Haynes, who I think is a really good running back, they can do enough to win this game. I think it's 100% close, a close one. Mainly because I think Underwood and Raiola will both struggle. I think these are both kind of defensive teams, but I think Michigan in the end will be able to pull out the win here. But I could totally see Nebraska winning. That's why it was hard for me to pick a winner here. This one I'm excited to see, but it wasn't hard for me to pick a winner. And that's Auburn at Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma wins this game. I'm very confident in that. I think John Mateer is the better quarterback. Actually, I know John Mateer is the better quarterback. Oklahoma's at home. And honestly, who's the better head coach at this point? I have no idea. I think I have no idea who the better head coach is between the two of these right now. Hugh Freeze has the better career, obviously. But as of right now, not so sure. I think Venables can come up with enough defensively to stop Auburn's QB run game with Jackson Arnold. Auburn has still not proven that they can throw the ball successfully when they need to win a game, and I think they're going to have to in this one. John Mateer is simply a better quarterback. Again, I think this is a low-scoring game as well. But I think, I've seen some people say, oh, Auburn's going to get the upset, and I've seen some people say, oh, Oklahoma's going to blow out Auburn. I don't think Auburn is talented enough offensively to get the upset, especially at quarterback. And I don't think Auburn's defense is bad enough for Oklahoma to blow Auburn out. I think this is somewhere in the ballpark of like a 24-14 game. That's what I think. And I think Oklahoma picks up the dub. I think it's going to be very similar to the Oklahoma-Michigan game. I think it's going to be very similar to that. Except I think Jackson Arnold will play better than Bryce Underwood did, but not enough to make it super close. I don't think he can play good enough to where I feel like Oklahoma is at any danger of losing at any point in the game. Tulane, Ole Miss. This is an interesting one. But this is one of those moments where a lot of people, Tulane is the sexy pick. It's I'm going to pick Tulane to beat Ole Miss because you tell yourself oh, this is the upset that I'm picking. But it becomes a point where so many people are picking it. Is it really an upset? Obviously it would be. Ole Miss is clearly a better roster than Tulane. I think it's going to be very similar to what we just saw with Miami and USF. I think Ole Miss could waltz out here and just dominate them. I really do. Ole Miss's defense does worry me. Tulane can score, and if they make this a shootout, they have a chance. But I think Ole Miss will pull away in the end and win this game by, maybe 2 scores. So give me the Rebels. Arizona State, Baylor. a Big 12 matchup. This is an interesting one. I like I like Kenny Dillingham as a head coach much more than Aranda. Although Baylor is at home. Quarterback is probably about the same. Sawyer Robertson versus Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt hasn't had a great season. Sawyer Robertson's looked impressive in moments, especially against SMU. Or sorry, that was not SMU. Wait, no, yes, it was SMU against SMU. Um, but I think Arizona State's a better team. I think they have the better head coach, and I think this is one Arizona State has to win. I think they have to win it to keep their Big 12 hopes still in line. I don't think they can lose to a team like Baylor. I think they really need to win this game. Illinois, Indiana, the second hardest game to pick. This one and the Michigan Nebraska game were so hard to pick because I think Illinois and Indiana are so similar as far as talent level. I think they're the same. They're not the same type of team, but I think if Illinois and Indiana played 10 times, I think Illinois would win 5 times and Indiana would win 5 times, if you get what I'm saying. I like the fact that Illinois is coming into this game actually having played good opponents. You know, they played their game against Duke, for example. Well, Indiana has played 3 cupcakes so far this year. But Indiana, it's at home. The fans are going to show up for this one. I like Francisco Mendoza at quarterback. I like him more than Altmaier. I think Altmaier is extremely overrated. I think Bielema as a head coach is overrated. I think this entire Illinois team is overrated. Now, I think Indiana's overrated too, but not as much as Illinois. That's why I'm going Indiana to beat Illinois this weekend. And I think people are going to start to really open their eyes on what Illinois really is, and it's not a playoff team. Michigan State at USC. I would love to pick Michigan State because I was a Michigan State believer last year, and I'm a Michigan State believer this year. Maybe more so, I'm an Aiden Childs believer. I think he has so much potential, so much talent if he can just stop with the turnovers, which he's done better with this year. And they beat Boston College. USC beat Purdue. But I got to go USC. And I like Jonathan Smith, too, Michigan State's head coach. But I think USC is just simply the better team by far. I don't think Michigan State is there yet. I think we need to give Jonathan Smith another year to really get some talent in there. And because of that, I just think USC top to bottom is just a more talented roster. And especially with Michigan State having to travel across the country to come play USC, typically that is going to really help USC in this scenario. And also the game's at 11 o'clock at night. Yikes. You know, I saved this one for last for a reason. Florida at Miami. You know, a lot of people were thinking to themselves, ooh, will Miami finally show who they are against Notre Dame? Will they show who they are against USF, which is frauds? You know, Miami does the whole thing where, you know, twice a season they'll lose to someone they shouldn't, and everyone will finally realize that they're not that good. But see, everyone was calling it too early. It wasn't going to happen first game of the season against Notre Dame because Notre Dame's not that good. It wasn't going to happen against USF, please. USF, at the end of the day, is still a group of 5 team. Okay, don't forget that. But I'm going to tell you something. You all called it way too early. And this right here is the perfect trap. It is the perfect trap. Why do I say that? Do you know who Miami's next game is against? They have a bye after this, to be fair. But next, they play Florida State, who's ranked 7 in the nation right now. You see, after this game, they get a bye, and then they come back and they'll play at Florida State and then play Louisville at home. Those are two very important games against two good teams. And that's why this is a trap. It's also a trap for the fact that everyone is so high on Miami right now. Everyone is so high on Carson Beck right now. And mixed in with the fact that everyone is so down on Florida. And I always think back to last year when we were so down on Florida. What happened? Florida started winning a lot of games. Now, do I think that's necessarily what will happen this time? No. Florida's not winning, 9 or 10 games this year. They have too hard of a schedule. But I think Florida wins this game because this is the make or break. Billy needs this. DJ Lagway needs this win so bad. They need it so bad. And if this Florida defense can play one more time how it played the last 2 weeks, this game will be close, and it will give Billy and DJ Lagway a chance to win it. And I said Carson Beck knows Florida very well. Well, guess what? They also know Carson very well. Do we want to remember that Carson threw, 3 interceptions against Florida last year? Just saying. I think this is the perfect recipe for a Miami letdown. That's exactly what this is. So give me Florida to upset Miami and waltz out of Hard Rock Stadium. And it's not like, by the way, it's not like Miami is that much of an impressive home field advantage. Just saying. But give me Florida to waltz out of Hard Rock Stadium as the victors. And everyone's going to be like, what? We didn't see this coming. We didn't see this coming. Well, guess who did? Your boy. Your boy saw it coming. Because I don't get fooled by teams like Penn State and Miami and USC anymore. I don't get fooled by these frauds, these yearly frauds anymore. Florida is winning this football game this weekend. You heard it here first. And I promise you, I'm probably one of the only ones who is going to say that. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Week 4 of college football. Week 3 of NFL football. Got Bills Dolphins tonight. Got Josh Allen on my fantasy team. Need him to go off. Please, Josh. I hope everyone has a tremendous weekend. Do not forget to go out there and be great.